Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a story that honestly shatters that false sense of security we all feel when we visit the zoo. We're looking at the tragic case of Tatiana. She was a 4-year-old Siberian tiger living at the San Francisco Zoo, and she was absolutely one of their most prized, beautiful animals, a massive draw for the park. But today, we're unpacking a terrifying sequence of events that took place on a day when the zoo was supposed to be completely peaceful. So picture this. It's the San Francisco Zoo, Christmas Day, 2007, 5 p.m. It's a major holiday, so the zoo is officially closed for Christmas. The usual loud, bustling crowds, totally gone. There's only a handful of lingering visitors still inside as the evening starts setting in. It should have been completely quiet and serene, but at around 5 p.m., that calm was violently shattered. A 300-pound apex predator somehow breached its enclosure and crossed right over into the human side of the park. Section 1, the 20-minute hunt. Now, when you hear about an animal escape, you probably imagine it wandering around, right? Just panicking, acting disoriented, maybe a little curious. But not Tatiana. She didn't just wander. At 5 p.m., she escapes, and instead of exploring, she goes on a highly targeted offensive. Minutes later, she actively tracks down 3 specific young men. She completely ignores everything else around her. Moments after that is when the fatal attack happens. She kills one of the young men and severely mauls the other 2 as they're desperately trying to flee through the zoo. By the time police rush in to secure the scene, she's still actively pursuing the survivors. And at 5:20 p.m., officers have to shoot and kill Tatiana to stop the attack. Just 20 minutes, that's all it took. From the second she breached her enclosure to the moment she was shot, the entire hunt lasted less than 20 minutes. In that incredibly tight, terrifying window of time, a human life was lost, 2 others were permanently altered, a prized animal was killed, and a massive mystery was left behind. I mean, we really have to ask, how does an apex predator escape one of America's most secure zoos, and why on earth did she target those specific people? Let's get into Section 2, the investigation unfolds. When the dust finally settled, authorities had to figure out how this even happened. You don't just accidentally walk out of a tiger enclosure. So investigators look at the physical walls meant to keep Tatiana contained, and they find a jaw-dropping discrepancy, 12.5. The main barrier separating Tatiana from the public was only 12.5 feet high. Now look, to you and me, 12.5 feet sounds pretty tall, but we aren't measuring this for humans. We're measuring this for one of nature's most athletic, powerful jumpers. Tatiana literally scaled or leaped right over that wall to get out. But here is the context that changes absolutely everything. 16.4. That is the recommended minimum height for a tiger enclosure wall according to international zoo safety standards, 16.4 feet. Let that sink in for a second. The wall keeping a 300-pound Siberian tiger inside was nearly 4 feet shorter than the universally accepted safety standard required to stop this exact kind of tragedy from happening. This wasn't just a simple oversight, it was a massive, compounding systemic failure. Not only was the wall way too short, but the zoo actually knew about it for years. And get this wasn't even Tatiana's first escape. She had gone out in 2006 and actually injured a zookeeper in the process. Yet, despite knowing the wall was too short, and despite a prior attack, nobody fixed it. They left the physical barrier exactly as it was, essentially setting the stage for the nightmare on Christmas Day 2007.
Which brings us to Section 3, provoking the predator.
Okay, so we've got to look at the other side of this equation. Why did she attack who she attacked? After it was all over, the surviving men told police it was totally random. They said, "We did nothing to provoke her, we were just in the wrong place at the wrong time." But the physical evidence at the scene told a very different story. Investigators found pine cones and sticks inside the tiger enclosure, things that had to have been thrown in from the outside. On top of that, medical exams showed one of the survivors had a specific wound entirely consistent with him dangling his foot right over the enclosure railing. The physical evidence completely dismantled their alibi. And this evidence was backed up by some truly chilling eyewitness accounts. Witnesses reported that this specific group of 3 young men had been taunting Tatiana for hours, throwing objects at her, dangling their legs over the railing, just relentlessly harassing her. So when Tatiana cleared that 12.5-foot wall, she didn't just snap. She bypassed every other potential target in that zoo. She was on a singular mission to find the exact people who had been tormenting her. It was literally a targeted retribution. Section 4, predator or victim. Ultimately, we're left looking at this incredibly tragic intersection. You have a massive failure in institutional safety colliding head-on with sheer human cruelty on a quiet holiday afternoon. A wall left 4 feet too short despite years of glaring warnings, and visitors deliberately taunting a captive apex predator for hours. It really forces us to ask the tough question: was Tatiana the predator here, or was she the victim? She acted entirely on her instincts after hours of reported harassment, exploiting a known vulnerability in a cage she never chose to be in to begin with. So where do you stand on this? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Dive into the comments below this explainer and debate your conclusion. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.